February 14th, a day of flowers, of chocolates, of handwritten cards. But behind the romance lies a much darker story, a story written in blood. This is not the holiday you think you know. We think of love, but its origins are rooted in chaos, defiance, and a brutal execution. We will uncover a pagan festival drenched in ritual, an emperor who outlawed marriage, a priest who defied him in secret, and a final bloody act that history would reshape into a celebration of love. Forget the greeting cards. This is the truth behind Valentine's Day. Before the hearts and flowers, there was Rome, and in the heart of Roman winter, there was Lupercalia, a festival held from February 13th to the 15th. It was not a celebration of gentle love. It was a chaotic, ancient ritual of purification and fertility. The rites began in a sacred cave. Priests, known as the Luperci, performed sacrifices. Then they would run through the city streets. They carried strips of animal hide, touching those they met. This act was not seen as violent. It was a symbolic blessing, a promise of fertility for the women and purification for the city. The festival was primal, loud, a public display of ancient beliefs that stretched back before the Republic itself. For centuries, this was how Romans marked mid-February. It was a world away from whispered sweet nothings. It was a world of raw, pagan power. This was the empire in the 3rd century. A sprawling power under constant threat. Its ruler, Emperor Claudius II, faced enemies on every border. He needed soldiers, strong soldiers, unwavering soldiers. Claudius believed that married men made poor warriors. That love for a wife and family was a distraction, a weakness on the battlefield. He believed a soldier's only duty was to the eagle of Rome. So he made a decree, a policy that would shape an empire. Marriage was forbidden for young men of fighting age. It was not a matter of romance. It was a matter of military strategy. The personal lives of his subjects were secondary to the survival of the state. Love was a liability. The empire required sacrifice, and Claudius would enforce it. But even in an empire of iron, some beliefs cannot be stamped out. There was a priest in Rome, a Christian known as Valentinus, or Valentine. He watched as the emperor's law tore couples apart. He saw love denied by imperial decree, and he chose to defy it. In secret chapels, under the cover of darkness, Valentine continued to perform marriages. He joined couples in the eyes of his god, even as the emperor forbade it. Each ceremony was an act of rebellion, a quiet declaration that love was a higher authority than the state. He knew the risks. Defying the emperor was a death sentence. Yet, he persisted. His faith was his guide, his conscience, his commander. But secrets in Rome rarely stay secret for long. The authorities were informed. Valentine was arrested, dragged from the shadows, and brought before the power of the Roman state. He was ordered to renounce his faith, to bow to the Roman gods and the emperor's will. He refused. His defiance could not be tolerated. Under Roman law, the punishment was clear and severe. Valentine was taken to be disciplined. Historical accounts are sparse, but they point to a brutal process, an attempt to break his body and his will. Still, he did not yield. Finally, the sentence was carried out. In the year 69 AD, Valentinus was executed. The traditional date of his death is recorded as February 14th. A priest who died for uniting lovers became a martyr on the very day that once belonged to a pagan fertility rite. Legend whispers of a final act. That from his cell, Valentine wrote a farewell note to a young woman he had befriended. A note signed with 3 simple words, "From your Valentine." A final personal message from a man about to die. For 2 centuries, the legacy of Valentine simmered beneath the surface of history. The pagan festival of Lupercalia continued, but the Christian faith was growing. In 496 AD, the Church made its move. Pope Gelasius I officially abolished the chaotic rites of Lupercalia. He declared February 14th a feast day, St. Valentine's Day. The date was no longer about pagan purification. It was about a Christian martyr. But the romantic connection was still centuries away. That link was forged in the Middle Ages. Writers like Geoffrey Chaucer began to associate the day with the mating season of birds. They wrote poems and stories that tied St. Valentine's feast to the blossoming of courtly love. Slowly, over hundreds of years, the meaning shifted. The martyr's sacrifice was forgotten. The secret ceremonies faded into legend. Romance took root. By the 19th century, factories were printing cards. Businesses were selling chocolates. A day of defiance had been commercialized. A story of execution had been sanitized. So when you see the hearts and flowers, remember the truth. Valentine's Day wasn't born from a poem. It was forged in defiance. It wasn't created by merchants. It was purchased with blood. Every card signed, every flower given is an echo of a history most of us have never been told. A history where the greatest acts of love were once acts of rebellion. A history that reminds us that love and death have always been intertwined.